Welcome to the Social Age. My name's Adrian Saya. This is a podcast where we'll be talking about various subjects and concepts that will help you achieve the social life that you want. On today's episode, I have Tony Blanko in the building.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
We'll be talking about authenticity and energy
Okay.
and how it plays a pivotal role in who you are and achieving the social life you want, and also who you connect with, right? And how it brings those you really want into your life together with intention.
Right.
So tell me, how do you feel authenticity? What do you think about the subject? Like, how do you think it's impacted your life?
I think it's crazy that that you reached out to me the other day and that you brought it up because, like, I hadn't spoken to you in a minute.
Yeah.
Like, it had been a while since we had spoken, but the vibes and the energy that we transmuted when we first met just carried on. And it's like, it's just wild to think that somebody that I moved here 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So you were one of the first people who I met. And so basically to see somebody with ambition and where I was starting out when I first came here, it's like, you know, we all kind of had this idea of who we wanted to be. And it took some time, but now it's like we're actually putting the building blocks together. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Of like, and that all has to do with the amount of authenticity. Maybe you didn't feel comfortable doing it 2 years ago. Like
Right.
I didn't feel comfortable doing certain things 2 years ago.
Right.
But now the more that we connected with self and the more that we understand our energy and the divinity that we have, it led us to now being able to tangibly put together the building blocks of what our dreams are.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. How do you think understanding yourself has played into the close friends you have around you?
I think that you want to be careful with the energy that you allow or that that you share with. And so, what was the specific question that you just
So
asked?
how do you feel like getting in touch with yourself and understanding yourself has evolved your friend circle,
The
your
social
close
life.
friend circle, your social network, right?
Right.
Like who you share that energy with, like you talked about.
Mhm.
You know, I feel like that stems personally a lot from knowing yourself,
Right.
right? Because I know if I know me really well,
Mhm.
I know the vibes I'm giving off will only be received by people
That are
that
on the same wavelength.
on the
as you.
same wavelength.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm very cautious with who I share energy with. You know,
Got you.
it's not like I'm like scared, but it's like I used to trust until given a reason not to trust, and now it's like I'll trust once I see that there's like that energy.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So I'm one of those people that will walk right up to everybody. I want to give everybody a chance. I feel like everybody has a story. Everybody has like their own background. But once you feel that energy, you have to understand whether or not it's going to be in alignment with your life and your life goals.
Gotcha.
And so knowing myself has made for the best relationships that I've had right now at 24 than in my whole life.
Word.
And even with some of the same people who I had rocky relationships with,
Gotcha.
you know?
Did
So-
you ever think that you know, it took a lot of time to get to this point? Did you have like any type of relationships that helped you realize this? That you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh shit.
Definitely.
You know, it took some, you know, maybe I'm not being real with,
Right.
with like what I'm giving out, and that's why, you know, this friendship probably went sour or
Right.
something.
Yeah, it's like you have to be kind of cautious at that point because you don't want to put blame on yourself.
Gotcha.
You want to empathize even with self,
Mm.
right? So like you look back and you're like, okay, so I could have done this better. Yeah, but then forgiveness is such a key too, though. And so you forgive yourself if that other person that, you know, may not be aware of how childhood traumas and past traumas has an effect on who you are and how you behave today. You know, I guess it could all be linked to psychology. It could all be linked to spirituality and human nature.
Gotcha.
Those are the three keys that really like help me come up with my decisions and my philosophies on life.
Wow.
So I think, you know, you need to experience shit.
Yeah.
You need to have a bad relationship to know what a good relationship should be like.
Yeah, I completely
know?
agree with you, man. And I think you touched on a really interesting concept there that I think it takes a lot of people, you know, a lot of time
Yeah.
to realize that getting in touch with your childhood self and understanding, you know, what trauma you might have had or
Right.
what has led you to build this like wall with people You know, it helps you understand who you are and why you act the way you do.
Yeah.
Because even with me, right, I had this thing because I'm a real social cat. I love talking to people. You see somebody,
Yup.
I'm like, I'll talk to them. You name
Yeah.
it, I got you. Um,
So would you consider yourself like an approacher? Like
Ye-
everybody that you see, you're just like,
100%.
okay. I
I
make eye contact, and if I don't say hi to you, it's awkward. Because I'm like, all right, like now we're connected. You know what I mean? Like eye contact, we're connected. And so now if I don't say something, it's like, am I scared of talking to you? Like, what's going
up?
on? You know what I
What's
mean?
up? You know, it's interesting because I found that when you're doing yourself and that other person a disservice by not approaching and not talking to
Yeah,
them. And
exactly.
I learned this through dating, actually, like just
Right.
talking to women in various situations.
Mhm.
At first, I was really hesitant to just talk to a girl I found really attractive.
Right.
And then it came to a point where I was being forced to put in those situations where I'm like, if I don't do anything about this, nothing is going to come of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
So
know?
also, if you don't, if she makes the first move, then she's the alpha.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's
exactly.
not a good place
That's not
to
a
be,
good place
because
to
even
start.
if you do hook up,
Uh-huh.
even if, like, let's say you form a relationship out of that. Okay, so one of my relationships, right?
Got you.
I had seen her, right? I walked into the store. It was Publix, right? And I walked in. I saw her from the back. I was like, God damn. I was like, yo, I have to say something. So I walked over to her, but she was in the middle of a conversation. So I didn't bother her.
Okay.
So, okay, I'm not about to interrupt. I probably could have,
Yeah.
but it was my own self-doubt that made me not do it. So I walk around, whatever, and I'm thinking, damn, like it's in the back of my mind. I have to say
You
something.
got that
right?
what if.
Yeah,
always.
like I have to, right?
Right.
So then I look down the aisle and I see her at the cashier. And I'm like, yo, that's it. Fuck it. I'm going to the cashier. You know, I don't care if I have to get more shit. I'm buying whatever I have to buy, and that's it. So then I go over and I'm just about to say something to her, and she looks at me and she gives me this stank face, like up and down, like as if like I like, you know, like
Did
stabbed her
something.
sister or something. Like it was like she gave me this look, and I was like, whoa. And then I was like, well, okay, now I'm not gonna say anything. And then
Gotcha.
she goes, Tony Blanko? I'm like, yo, what?
What?
I was like, what the fuck? I was like, yeah, how'd you know? And she was like, yo, I was just looking at your stories. I was like, yo, no way. And it was like I had just moved here. I hadn't been here for more than 2-3 months.
That's crazy.
So it like it
bro.
aligned the universe. And so like that was what I would consider a karmic relationship. Which, do you know about like twin flame?
I don't.
So okay, so
Tell me about that. What
yeah,
you
so
think
your
about
karmic relationship is the relationship that teaches you a lot of things about love, and you have to pay for your past karmas.
that?
I used to cheat. I used to lie. You know, like to all of my relationships, like I didn't take them seriously.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And so that was the one that I was fully invested in.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't at first. I was doing me the same way that I used to do me in the beginning. But then as I fell deeper in love with her, the tables turned.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's the karmic relationship is when you pay for those past karmas.
That's real interesting.
Yeah.
I've never actually put a word to that, but I've always
it's a
understood
thing,
the
man.
concept. Yeah. And I think it plays a big role with habits, right?
Yeah.
Because I used to be the same way. You know, you're just kind of in this idea that you're just like a player. You know,
Yeah.
you're just gonna hear, oh, this ain't gonna be
I
nothing
identified
else.
with that for a while. I thought it was
exactly.
mad cool.
I think a lot of
you know?
dudes do in the beginning, especially because it's like it's a way of putting up a mask. You're
Yeah.
protecting yourself from getting anything serious because you don't want to get hurt, pretty
Right.
much. So you're like, I'm gonna be a player. Play is play.
Right.
I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna stay hard. But then what happens is you lack intimacy in that process. You don't
Exactly.
understand intimacy, and that really starts to weigh on you when you get into a real relationship.
Right.
So when you get into something serious and it's worth it, you see the worth and you see that this relationship can evolve you.
Right.
I think where that habit really starts to break, and it's almost like you said, you're paying for your past there by just realizing, oh shit,
Right.
I gotta actually be real,
Yeah.
true to who I am, and not put up this facade.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that relationship caused me so much immense pain that it shifted who I was to who I am today. And I could not be more grateful because the universe aligned it that way. The more that I learn about psychology and stuff like that, it's like, you know, how we started this conversation is that if she approaches you, then she's the dominant one, right? And so, like, you know, I feel like as men, we do struggle with this concept of, like, we have to be the dominant one. We have to be the alpha male, you know? And it's just, it's crazy that, like, it sets you on this path to learn a lot of different things when you open up your mind to literally learn the concepts and social structures.
I
You know?
completely agree. And I think there's this pressure on men to stay to this stigma of what alpha really means,
Yeah.
right? It's like you got to be the hunter. You got to be the alpha of all males in the building. You got to be the top dog.
Yeah.
When it's not necessarily that. You know, you just got to be the leader, even on a micro level.
Right.
You know, just show the person that you're with that you can lead in a situation.
Right.
You know?
But a leader, not a boss.
Exactly. That's a really good way to put it. Be a leader, not a boss. Because there's different ways of leading. You know, I've seen a lot of relationship dynamics where it's not necessarily needed for you to be the top breadwinner, the top leader and all that, right? You can lead in other areas. You could be the nurturer in some ways where you're leading in that aspect. And that's what makes that relationship valuable. You know, it's just really understanding how you can lead.
Right.
I saw this really in dating on a micro level, specifically when I set up dates, right? You want to show you're leading by, I plan one place. All right, we're going to go to this bar, okay? Always keep it casual. Always keep it
Adrian's
casual,
about to drop
bro.
game
I'm
now,
trying to teach y'all some
bro.
game
Let's
right
go.
now. All right. Don't go to a restaurant. Don't go to a movie. That shit is too...
For the first?
For the
For the
first.
first date.
I don't do it. It's too...
No restaurants.
It's too intimate.
No movies.
No movies. You don't really know the person like that yet, right? You're just... Movies...
So it's safe to say you don't fuck on the first date.
I'm not...
Yo,
I plead the
we
fifth.
ain't gonna go there.
I plead the fifth. Well, all you gotta know...
right.
All you gotta know is that when you're at the movies, it's very... You don't even talk. You're just watching something.
That's true.
So you don't get to know each other.
Right.
You know? And when you're at a restaurant, let's say the date goes sour, right? How is the girl gonna leave and how are you gonna leave?
Yeah.
I always like picking a spot that's both of us could leave if we really wanted
It's
to.
neutral.
It's neutral, exactly. And I feel like that plays a long way when you're scheduling something.
Yeah.
You know? The girl kind of subconsciously maybe even realizes, okay, well, if we go to a bar, I could just call my girlfriend over and we can dip, you know, if that's the case, if this all goes bad.
So is a bar a place that you would go?
A bar would be nice. I wouldn't go to somewhere packed, you know, just like a casual spa. Maybe they serve some beers, you know, a drink or two. I think that's ideal because it puts you in an environment where you want to talk.
Right.
You know, it's a social environment.
Yeah.
And not necessarily...
Alcohol had a huge part with who I am today.
Me too.
I'm not gonna front, bro.
Me too. It taught me how to socialize.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Do you consider, do you think that you have a drinking problem?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. I do not need alcohol to operate, but I do find the value in alcohol when it is needed.
Absolutely.
You get me?
Yeah,
I just don't think it's absolutely necessary. Even in a date setting, let's say you don't want alcohol in the mix, go to a park. You know, go somewhere where you can walk and talk. Whole point is be somewhere social.
Wow, a park,
and you
bro?
can leave.
That's crazy because I think, depending on, and that's a lot of powerful energy that you're setting and intention that you're setting when you do the things that you do.
You're leading.
Yeah, but in such that intention of you're not going to entrap anybody. You're not going to make it set up so that you're in a position of power.
Exactly.
You are leveraging equalness. You know what I mean? You're like, yo, you come, we're both going to be in a spot where we could both leave or we could both stay. And it's completely based on how we vibe off of each other.
Exactly.
It's not like I have to drive you home or anything like that. That's beautiful.
All of that it's neutral, like you said, and that's the important spot. And now where it ties a little bit more into leading, what I found helped me a lot in dating is knowing your places, right? So if I go to this park, I know there's a dope-ass coffee shop right across the street. So we're going to go for a little stroll. If it's going well, no one hits that abort button, you know what I'm saying? Then we're going to go to that coffee shop. And
do you know a lot of people at that coffee shop?
You can if you go regularly. Knowing your surroundings plays a huge role.
Right.
You know, going regularly helps you know the cashier. It builds rapport.
Exactly. So that rapport, right? So basically instead of where I'm going to bring it back to the alpha thing.
Gotcha.
Right? Where a lot of guys, you know, it's crazy how we're basically like these gorillas or these chimps in nature where it's you know, we have to be the biggest, we have to be the strongest, we need to out-alpha other males. But then a female could instantly just flip the switch and you're not as alpha as you thought you were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's so now I just shitted all over every relationship with all these males and just to get turned down by a female because you know, your alphaness isn't determined on how you mistreat other males.
Yeah, it's 100%
You
not
know,
the case, man. I think when it comes to your alphaness, it's really tying into to frame, right? It's a
right?
word that I love to use.
Absolutely.
Your frame, and your frame is how confident you are in yourself,
In yourself,
right? Back to
the
the self, the
authenticity.
authenticity. That's why I
Yes.
wanted to talk about this because when you are confident in who you are and that
Mm,
authenticity you give off, you got a strong frame.
right.
You attract people who are like minded.
Right.
And this plays really well into friends, into girlfriends,
Mm.
relationships, dating, you name it.
Every relationship.
Every relationship you'll probably have from
Yo.
here on out all ties into how authentic you are with you.
Right.
Because that frame you build gives off this energy, and this energy is received really well by those who are like minded.
Exactly.
You know?
Or not even like necessarily like so like-minded in that your philosophies are the same or that your political thoughts are the same,
Yeah.
but just so much as that like you understand that you could like sense like, okay, he or she is comfortable being themselves. That makes me feel comfortable.
Yep.
Now you're around somebody who's nervous, right? Or that they're insecure and that shit projects in such a way
Oh
that it's
man.
like I relieve myself of insecure people because it's like being around them, it's like, it's drama could concur,
Mm-hmm.
fights could break out.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you're not comfortable being yourself.
That's it.
And then it's like if you're comfortable being yourself around them, you have to kind of like dim your shine in order to not start conflict.
Yeah. And
And it's
that's
sad,
terrible.
you
That's
know?
terrible because then you can't be yourself. That
Exactly.
person is just definitely not being themselves,
Right.
but they're insecure. So they're building
Right.
up this wall and forcing you to climb it pretty
Right.
much,
Right. Right.
And that's really frustrating. That's where I've learned this process called like vetting, right? Like you want to vet the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is like you want to understand who's worthy of being close to you in the first place,
For sure.
right? Because if I have a friend who probably wouldn't really be my friend in the first place if they're like that, always putting up walls, acting real fake and offended if someone else is, not kind of calling them out on it or something,
Right.
or not playing the same game.
Mm.
I don't play games. I don't got time for that.
I appreciate when somebody's like, yo, dude, you got to straighten your shit out.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it levels
like,
you up.
that's real friends. That's
Yep.
real. Like, that's my brother right there. Somebody who's like, so I brought up the drinking thing.
Mm,
During quarantine, bro, I was fucked up every day. But
mm.
I was working 9 to 5, 9 to 6 actually in a toxic ass environment
Damn.
that I would go home and I'm comfortable being myself. I'm Tony motherfucking Blanko, yo. I'm like hype, and then I get to work and then they shoot down everything. Bah, 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 because I'm the youngest guy there that believes in himself. And there's these like 50-something-year-old dudes that are in the same position as me, but they're sad because how come this guy is happy? How come he could be himself and I
Right.
can't?
Right.
You know? So it's like I had to remove myself. Ever since I've removed myself from that situation, dude. And how does it tie into the drinking? Is that like you feel more free when you drink? It's like I'm able to say things that I would say, but that the filter is there. So
Mm.
let me take off the filter, right? They say like a drunk man's words is a sober man's thoughts,
Yep.
right? So it's like, and then I was drunk every single day. And my cousin, I went over, me and him, we have this thing where authenticity is so important to me
Mm.
that both of the brands that I've created, Blanco and High Vibrations, both the mission statements are the same. The whole idea is to like create an environment, through Blanco, I create music and content where I'm expressing my authenticity
Mm.
in hopes that others will be like, yo, if he could do it, I could do it. And then like I started a brand with my cousin where it was like we have these things called conversation parties where it's like we actually take a seat back and like we just, express our authenticity in a way that like you feel safe to be your authentic self. And then we
Gotcha.
get to hear what you're saying. But that same cousin told me during one of those events, like after the event, he was like, he actually didn't say it directly to me, and I think that's what hurt. I think I would have respected it a lot more if he had said it directly to me, but I heard it
Gotcha.
from other people in the family.
Gotcha.
And the whole point was that he was worried for me
Interesting. Why?
because I'm driving drunk. I'm out here making bad decisions,
Got you.
and it's like, wow, like that shit hit me in a way that I was like, dude, maybe you do have a problem.
Mm.
And I know it runs in my family.
Got you.
So I was like, okay, like take a deep breath. analyze. Now, to be able to admit that fault, it's a powerful thing called accountability.
Mm.
And once you acknowledge that you have a problem, you take control. By holding yourself accountable, you take control over your life and you make that decision. Do I want to change? Yes? Okay, that's my choice. And now my action needs to follow. You know?
I completely agree with you, man.
So-
It's funny because I feel like as people, we always face these crossroads, right? Where we have a choice.
Right.
We could run from our problem
Yeah.
or face it head on like a bull.
Yeah.
You know, we can force change or we can just act like it's not a problem to begin with and just be like, nah, I don't have anything wrong with me and just keep it going like everything's Gucci when it's really not.
Right.
You know, but it's that self-reflection, that retrospection that really helps you understand, oh shit, okay, I see a pattern here.
Like looking into self.
Yeah, exactly. Looking into self and identifying with it, understanding who you are, like what is going on there. You know, I've seen that a lot with just my patterns. I've changed a lot of my behaviors personally just from seeing what keeps popping up. You know, this has played a real immense role, especially when it comes to relationships for me. You know, ones that are more in the sexual and loving side. Okay, why didn't this one become more intense than it should have been? You know, that person was opening up to me. Why was I building a wall? What's going on there? You know, wait a minute. This is happening in my past 3 relationships. What's going on here, right?
Yo.
So you start understanding, hold up, there's something wrong here.
Yo.
Now I had 2 decisions. I could either run or I could face it head on and understand what's going on.
Right.
Right?
But the funny thing is that you can't run
You can't.
because it's inevitable.
Exactly.
So your next relationship is going to be the 4th relationship that is exactly like the past 3.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So you either got to, yeah, you're right. You either got to face it or that's it.
Or that's it. You act like everything's fine when it's really not. It's like that meme with that dog in a burning building. You know, everything's fine.
Right.
Everything's not fine,
yeah,
bro.
It's not, bro.
It's not fine.
That's crazy.
You know?
And like, were any of those relationships like toxic?
None. None were
Wow.
well, none were toxic in a sense that the relationship was very dangerous almost, you know, like
Right.
or
So you've never encountered that?
no, because I never let it into my life.
Oh man,
You
I
know?
grew up with that shit.
Yes, yeah, that's tough.
You know what I mean? So that was a childhood trauma
Interesting.
that was carrying out into my life. That you know, I found myself basically. I learned to set boundaries.
Gotcha.
You know, and you were mentioning about relationships, about like you know, running away from the problem or facing it. Well, I'm right now in the process of learning about the pain pleasure principle.
Okay.
Right? And the way that I was taught is that the example is that, let's say, you know, in a relationship, you experience pain. And so now, you know, you won't do relationships, but is it really like you may find pleasure in a relationship, but that fear of pain will keep you from, you know, finding that immense love.
Got you. I've definitely thought about that myself, right? I'm like, wait a minute, is there a block here that's stopping me from? Is there like a past pain or some shit that's stopping me from realizing this relationship could be something great?
Right.
I could really let it blossom, you know. And I think a lot of people have that, you know, like they have a past pain that they don't really want to self-reflect on because your subconscious is literally just covers it up, bro. They're like, nah, nothing to see here. But if you really dig deep and think about the patterns around you, what's been happening, you'll uncover that, you know, and you start talking to someone or just even just analyzing it yourself, you can understand what the root of the problem is to begin with.
Right.
And really tackle it.
And that's so powerful because when you do that work, that's what that transmission of energy that's doing to the universe will attract the people towards you. When you say like-minded, now I get it.
Now you get it.
It's like, so I look at it, I tell people all the time, it's like, don't be mad at them because they're still at B. You're at H. You know, and so you can't get mad at them for not being where you are yet. Once you do that internal work, it changes your life.
Completely, man. You're like opening the floodgates all of a sudden. You know, you're allowing all that good energy that you really wanted, that manifestation that
Yeah.
you've been looking for, can happen now
Right.
because you've done the inner work. And I think the inner work is so important, yet it's so quickly brushed off because
Yeah.
our egos just let it be, right? It's like, nah, that girl didn't dig me because, she's just not about it. I'm me. She couldn't stand just being like with a king or some shit. Nah, that wasn't it. It's just that
Yeah.
you don't understand yourself enough to, or even thought about that enough to really understand what's the problem in the first place.
Right.
And it plays a really big role, man. Really big role. And I found that even besides relationships, right? Even friendships.
Right.
This is one of the biggest revelations I've had recently. Like I said, I'm real social, right? So when I'm real social, I want to make sure everyone has a good time with me.
Right.
It's like a feeling of you're on the same level, we're on the same level, smiling all good. But that's not the case. I'm kind of forcing it to be that way.
I was about to say, is that a pressure on you?
Yeah, it was for a while.
Okay.
Right? And I didn't understand why until I really started thinking about it, you
Right.
know? But what was happening was I was putting up like a mask,
Right.
I was trying to please everybody with this mask,
Wow.
Because I knew that you would vibe with me if I act this way. You would vibe
Yeah.
with me if I act this way. But then at the end of the day, when, I really self-reflected on it, I was like, this is building inauthentic relationships. I'm not really calling this out for what it is.
Right.
Me being kind of fake and trying to make sure that
Damn,
you're just
what?
comfortable with me, That's
Yeah.
it. And it was like a subconscious thing. I wasn't
Right.
even doing it consciously.
But I feel like I'm authentically a chameleon. The way that I'm speaking with you right now is different. Like any of the listeners or like anybody who's used to hearing me a certain way,
right.
there's no such thing.
Right.
Because if I talk to, let's say there's 5 people, we're all in a group, that's going to be the group Tony. Then there's going to be, me with Adrian Tony.
Yep.
There's going to be me with Jonah Tony.
Right.
It's like there's different
Different
what I mean?
Tonys.
Yeah, exactly.
So then at the end of the
But
day,
the mask is authentic though. It's like, because to me, I found myself people pleasing at first, but now it's like just enjoying being yourself. Like for me, it's about connecting with people, and so building that rapport has to do with connecting with people and showing them that you understand them, right? So have you ever heard of matching and mirroring?
yes. So
Okay, so how do you feel about that?
yeah. So I think matching and mirroring can go a long way for building a good foundation for a relationship in the beginning.
Okay.
In terms of like, they'll open up to you, they'll start smiling more with you, they'll be more comfortable with allowing you to be their friend.
Okay.
Right. But it can become toxic to a degree towards yourself. Because at what point, like you said, you got all these different Tonys. At what point do you understand who the real Tony is?
When I'm by myself.
When you're by yourself.
When I'm by myself.
Right? So then at what point can those really close to you understand who the real Tony is?
Never.
And
I'm fine with that.
you're completely cool with that.
Because I know that I'm a divisive figure.
Gotcha.
I know myself enough that I want to have good relationships with people, and the people who I care about the most, I've had relationships with my whole entire life. The closest people to me are my family. So, like with your family, you could think back to like good times, bad times, happy times, sad times, literally fucking roller coaster.
Yeah.
And they've seen you at your worst, they've seen you at your best. Well, because I care about them, because I remember there would be times that I was hurt or upset that like, how come they don't accept me for me? Well, maybe I'm just too much for them. But like, I know that I think that's part of the drive of me making my own personal brand and being an artist.
Gotcha. I was just going to mention that a lot of my friends who are artists, I feel like this principle doesn't fully apply. Because one of the things that an artist always has to do is build a alter ego in a way, like my friend, I have a friend named Franchise, right? Franchise is franchise. Like you are this rapper who is glamorous and glitz. You live up to that rap name that you are that mofo,
Exactly.
But Mike, which is his real name, is a different person. And that's the way it has to be, because as an artist, you need to be a version of yourself that you want to put out with your music. You need to identify, you need to build a brand and identity that's separate from yourself.
Yeah.
That's understandable.
I built that brand based off of who I've always wanted to be. And so I think that there's aspiring and there's a wannabe, right? If you are, let's say, 18-year-old me was a wannabe. Oh, I'm a rapper, this, that, and the other thing. Never had a recorded track. Never took the time to produce a track. Hadn't finished recording school yet. You know what I mean? Hadn't done all those things that changes you to an aspiring person. So let's say, like now, depending on like the traction that you're gaining and whatnot, like you are an aspiring podcast host, right?
Gotcha.
Because you're putting the action in and the effort in. So what you want to do is backed by action. Now, if you never did it, but you just talk about it all the time, and people are, yo, fucking 3 years goes by. This guy, he keeps talking about how he's going to do his podcast. That's a wannabe. And there's nothing wrong with being aspiring. The only people who ever call somebody who is aspiring a wannabe are people who want to be, but refuse to put in that effort and that action.
Gotcha.
So that's where I think a lot of people's projection of their insecurities comes out to people who are authentically themselves, because it takes fucking work.
It does, man. It takes a lot of work, and I've realized even with artists, like you said, that the alter ego that you kind of build, you become that. Like you just embody it because it's who you really are.
Yep.
And I saw this with my homie Franchise. He literally just became that motherfucker that he wanted to be, and now he is that guy.
So socially, I have to be nice to people.
Yeah.
Right? But then on my tracks, I could be like, motherfucker, bitch. Like, it's like you could say whatever you want and do whatever you want. Express yourself in your art.
Yeah.
But then socially, and you mentioned way in the beginning something about people who are offended, people who are insecure.
Oh, man.
I think that society is based on the opinions of the insecure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a very good point. I see that what's happening, especially today.
Yeah.
Cancel
culture.
Yeah, not to get too political, but cancel culture is toxic. You got to say it. It's very toxic.
Yo, if I don't agree with you and I'm like, Adrian's canceled, that's it, he's done. Bro.
How are we ever going to have a conversation about it?
Exactly.
How are we ever going to grow?
And that was only Adrian on July 29th. You know what I'm saying? Like,
facts,
Adrian,
man.
August 3rd, may be completely fucking different.
I completely agree, man. And it's a thing it doesn't allow you. It's like saying, okay, Tony, you got to be Tony Blanko. And if you stray away from that once within the next 10 years, you're canceled. That's it. You say one thing that just don't make sense, you're canceled.
Right. But to who? To whose idea of, like, who says that you are this person?
Ridiculous.
Like labels and people who try to put you in a box, right? Oh, man. I've had so many experiences where, like, I've done something, I've explored a certain aspect of my life, and people try to throw a label on it.
Gotcha.
I'm like, no, like, that's, I don't identify with that. I just had to explore.
You
know what I mean?
Yeah. You needed to learn who you're going to be.
Exactly.
Tying it right back into authenticity, man.
Yep.
It takes time. You just got to really focus on who you are going to be, right? Think about it. Reflect. Who are you? Who are you allowing your close friends to be?
Yeah.
Because they will give you energy, and that energy will determine who you are as a person at some point.
Right.
Because your closest friends, you ask opinions for. You ask them some serious shit.
Right.
And they help you process things, and that ultimately becomes your identity.
Right.
So I think it plays a big role when you do the self-work.
So how your friends interpret you?
Yeah. So what I mean by this, let me clarify. So like, let's say I'm being authentic, right? Like I'm trying to be the most authentic version of myself. Okay. So what I want to do is have those close friends. I'm not talking about like acquaintances or just like kind of friends. I'm talking like
people that are in your circle.
Your top 5, know, like the people you always chill with.
Right.
Those people.
I'm so lucky. I have such a good, like, shout out to my top 5, bro.
Shout out to my top 5.
For real. Shout out to our top 10,
5,
bro.
You already know. Like, it's so valuable because to have a really strong top 5 that are completely real with themselves as well. Because they will reflect that energy onto you, is what absolutely. I mean. Like, I'll come to them about decisions, big life decisions, or how I'm thinking about something. Yo, am I thinking about this right? Like, should I make X decision instead of B? What? You have deep conversations with those 5 people, probably.
So I think that the most powerful friends in that sense will be the ones that guide you to self-discovery.
That's
You know what I
exactly,
mean? Because it's
exactly.
like, for somebody, we don't like being told what to do. And I think that it's so, so important. When I got happy and I was like, yo, shout out to my top 5, it's because like I surround myself only with people who encourage my energy.
And that's exactly
You get
what
what
you
I'm saying?
want, man. They should act like an amplifier.
Exactly.
Yep. And also, not only that, but they should also be able to kind of halt you when they feel like something's up. You know? Like, think about it.
Yeah.
Because then you could be led astray. You could be going astray on your own thing, thinking you're doing it right. And all of a sudden, you know, one of them has to be like, listen, man, you should think about this a little differently.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel, you know, and you value their opinion, and they're able to help you level up in that way. They let you see the world a little differently to then grow.
Right.
You know? But that's what I mean about your top 5 and making sure that that close friend circle is authentic, you know, and real, because that will ultimately determine who you will become. You know, you got to be more selective with, or I feel like everybody needs to be more selective
Absolutely. Yeah.
with who that close friend group is going to be. You know, really think about it, because the energy you give them, they'll give back to you. They'll either amplify you or they'll lead you astray.
You know, I met somebody who I've known them for a couple of years, just based off of, we both lived in another state. We had never met in person. I think we were like Facebook friends or some shit. And like, I ended up, she came down here and we had a great time together. And I'm like, holy shit, like, it's so weird that I've known you for years and we finally meet. And she had gotten herself into some situations back where we used to live. She had gotten involved with drugs and, you know, had to, you know, straighten that out for herself. And that's an amazing thing. That ability that she acknowledged and she put herself in rehab is like so strong.
Gotcha.
I don't base somebody off of like, oh, wow, they used to do this, they used to do that. Nah, bro. Look at them right now. She's making change. She's powerful. You know what I mean? And so it's like, now, after we hung out one time, I encouraged her. I told her how beautiful her voice was. We were singing, freestyling together, you know, and then she tried out for The Voice a week later. And it's like, her biggest fear is rejection, which is like, to me, it was like, you know, I made her promise that no matter what happens at this thing, because I know how it works. American Idol, The Voice, they literally publicly embarrass you in front of millions of Americans.
They will.
And that's the point of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think she literally was like, I'm scared of rejection. I'm going to go to the place that is literally going to reject me for laughs.
Yep.
And she went through it. She did it. And I'm so, so proud of her, because it's like, why do I bring this up? Because her friends before were not encouraging her energy. She hung out with me one time. I feel like, yo, I'm fucking Tony Blanko, bro. I'm out here freestyling. Like, I don't freestyle with everybody. I don't sing around everybody.
Gotcha.
She encouraged my energy. And I did the same back. And that's how that works. That works together.
Exactly.
That's not like somebody just like, you know, like, oh, yeah, you know, I'm going to make him feel like the dog. And it's like, what is he doing for you?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You want to build each other.
Very important on the building and just keeping that flow going, you know, and deciding who is really going to be the one.
Right.
The chosen ones, pretty much,
Right.
to have that continuous energy exchange.
For sure.
Yeah. How are we doing on time? 38. All right. Well, this kind of just wraps up, you know, the episode, man.
That was amazing, man.
Yeah,
I
bro.
appreciate you so much.
Great freaking, you know, conversation, man. Thank you so much for coming. The first episode of The Social Age. I hope you guys enjoy. I feel like we really dropped some gems today. Shout out to Tony Blanko, bro.
You can follow me on the IG at Tony.Blanko with the K. Y'all already know.
Give him a
I
follow.
appreciate you for inviting me. I think when it comes into, when I got that text the other day, you literally said, you were like, you know, I'm going to have my first episode and the topic is going to be authenticity and energy, and I want you to be the first guest. I was like, dude, what? This is the universe. Like, because, you know, I want to kind of like also touch on the fact that, like, you know, this is a podcast now, but how long have you been working on this? How long has this been a thought? How long has this been something that you needed to conquer things within yourself?
Long
to
time,
be able
man.
to do. Exactly.
Long time just developing myself to the point where I feel good enough to even talk about it.
And now it's here.
You know, it's here.
You did it, man.
Yeah.
You did it. Thank you for
bro.
having me.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. Well, that wraps it all up, man. Hope y'all enjoy and have a great day.